Welcome back to Amazingly Deep Thoughts. Whether you're listening on the podcast or watching this on a video, this is my second video in the series on Is There Truth? This is more apologetics and answering that question of, is there enough factual evidence to make a logical conclusion that the Bible is truth? So in this video, I'm pretty much going to be covering some of science and can scientific laws be broken? And that comes from the definition of what a fact is. And somebody said that if you destroy all of the books and teachings of a theory or an ideology in 1,000 years, would people come to the same conclusion through scientific experiments or observation? Would the same truths and facts come forth? So today I'm going to look at the idea of the creation model, examining it with the first two laws of thermodynamics. The first law of thermodynamics says that the conservation of energy, the energy can change forms, but it is neither created nor destroyed. This directly goes against both evolution and a designer, because we continually go back to the thing that nothing comes from nothing. How can evolution be true if life came from nothing? But that goes against science. And then the evolutionist will say, and then where did your designer come from? Nothing comes from nothing. And so the creation model supporters will say, well, God lives outside of the scientific laws, and he created it. He is the master artist, and he created this framework of laws and nature and universe, and he holds it all into place. So that is the answer to that, but that answer is based on faith and truth and their version of truth. So I'm just going to say that first law of thermodynamics doesn't prove either evolution or a creation model. Moving on to the second law of thermodynamics, entropy. Entropy of an isolated system, and entropy is chaos and the degrading of something to everything turns to dust, everything goes towards disorder, not order. Entropy of an isolated system will always increases. Things get worse, not better, without outside assistance. This fact does support the biblical narrative of a sin-cursed earth, that the reason why everything moves towards death is because God cursed it. People die because God cursed it. Man is here to use and to maintain this earth. I was watching a video. Oh, it was so neat. It was a documentary on regenerative farming, and a man took a farm that it wasn't being used. It hadn't been used for 45 years in California, and essentially it was just barren desert land filled with weeds. There was, buildings falling down, tractors that were rotting. And over the course of the next 7 years, as he brought in systematically water and plants and animals of all different types to regrow the microorganisms and really flourish that area, oh, it was beautiful, beautiful what it became with the outside assistance of intelligent humans. In comparison to what it had been for 45 years just sitting there, left to nature. And that was just a great picture of the difference between what happens over the time period of evolution left to itself versus man coming in and maintaining things and organizing it, and that intelligence that separates us as human beings from any other being on this planet. Which goes back to the question of intelligent life. Because the second law of thermodynamics does point to an intelligent designer, but if the first one says, then where did the designer come from? We are always left with a question of, what is the source of intelligent life? Because a lot of the proponents of evolution will say that in I'm going to say reaction, but in response to the question of irreducible complexity, the idea that the very, very base existence of life, DNA, there's a protein that needed to have more than one part to it to exist from the beginning, irreducible complexity. How did that happen if you needed all three parts for it to function forward? And they said, well, that's what natural selection is. It isn't left to chance. So that is a truth based upon natural selection is a truth that somebody grabbed onto that isn't supported by science, but they wanted to make sense of how things happened. So essentially, nature has an intelligence and it knows what it's going to need to survive, so it holds on to different elements. It accumulates different pieces knowing that it's going to need it to survive, because evolution is survival, and somehow matter has always had this intelligence. We're not going to talk about the creation of matter of the first law because that's impossible. But second law, that it needed it, and so it knew. So where does nature's intelligence come from? And that is always skirted around. It's a very complicated issue. So with those two facts alone, you couldn't really just say, yes, 100% both of those laws support creation, but one does. But both of those laws do not support evolution. Lee Strobel, who wrote The Case for Christ, and I'm not condoning everything that he teaches and everything that, but it was interesting that here was a man who was steeped in atheism. And he said, to continue in atheism, I would need to believe that nothing produces life, non-life produces life, that no thing produces life, non-life produces life, randomness produces fine-tuning, chaos produces information, unconsciousness produces consciousness, and non-reason produces reason. And he said, I just didn't have that much faith. There are a lot of facts that point to a designer, and it takes less faith to believe a truth. So the truth is the conclusion and the discerning of facts that the designer has always existed outside of the laws he created. It's easier to believe that than to believe evolutionistic theories that rely upon Mother Nature's intelligence. So these are all short podcasts. Hopefully they're easily digestible, but I hope that you are gaining the understanding that faith isn't blind and it's not a fairy tale unless you have nothing to support it. And so far, evolution has nothing to support it. So just putting that out there. All right, I'll talk to you the next time. I think I'm going to cover, I don't know exactly which one I'm going to do next, but I have quite a bit of them. I'll talk to you later.